Well, U.S. authorities have another man in custody tonight facing possible deportation, but it's nothing like the case of Mayor Arar. Luis Posada Carriles has been directly linked to a series of violent attacks on civilians, attacks described by the U.S. Justice Department as terrorism. But as Neil MacDonald reports, dealing with Carriles has proved a little trickier.
In every way, Luis Posada Carriles fits the U.S. definition of terrorist. He admitted carrying out a string of bombings against tourists in the 1970s. He went to prison in 2000 for trying to assassinate a foreign leader. And he is accused of helping blow a jetliner out of the sky in 1976, killing dozens of people. The doomed pilot's last recorded words were caught on tape.
We had an explosion and we are descending immediately.
As the U.S. Justice Department, which currently has Carriles in custody, put it in court recently, an unrepentant criminal and admitted mastermind of terrorist plots and attacks on tourist sites. So, Guantanamo Bay for Luis Posada Carriles? A secret CIA prison in Asia? Covert deportation? No. Washington is still deciding what to do. The problem is, Carriles is a Cuban, and most of his violence was directed at overthrowing Fidel Castro, which, at one time, was an official objective of the White House. Carriles also happens to be a former operative of the CIA. The declassified CIA file on Carriles goes into great detail about his proficiency with poison, explosives, weapons, and sabotage. Another government document states outright that the bombing of the Cubana Airlines DC-8 was planned at 2 meetings attended by Luis Posada Carriles. Researcher Peter Kornblue has made Carriles a project.
This is a man who has had a very long association with the CIA, starting in 1963, 64, and going all the way through to the mid-1980s when he was working on the Contra operation. He is essentially a Frankensteinian monster created by the Central Intelligence Agency.
And when a bird like Carriles comes home to roost, he entered the U.S. illegally last spring, he becomes an embarrassment for a president who's declared a war on terror and who regularly lectures other nations like this.
If you supported or harbored terrorists, you are equally guilty of terrorist murder.
The solution, then? Find somebody else to harbor Carriles. Court papers filed last week state that Washington has tried to find him a new home in at least 7 neighboring countries, including Canada. All 7 declined.
I think the Canadian government made a wise decision in not accepting him.
This former federal prosecutor says he understands there are politics involved, but...
by my lights, as a United States citizen and a former prosecutor, he should spend the rest of his life in jail. It took 73 innocent lives.
Now, a Texas judge wants to free Carriles, unless Washington legally certifies him as a terrorist, something the White House has not moved to do. The U.S. government does have one other option. It could put Carriles on a plane to Venezuela, which has formally requested his extradition for the airline bombing. But American officials don't want to do that either. Court documents suggest Washington is concerned that if deported to Venezuela, Carriles might be tortured. Neil MacDonald, CBC News, Washington.